You probably heard the advice that the two topics you should never talk about are religion and politics. Anybody ever hear that one? So I'm going to talk about both of them this morning, okay? But while the church cannot endorse or oppose any particular candidate, clearly the church has to speak out about the moral values of politics, about the issues which really are not political at all. They're at root moral issues. I read a great thing in a paper recently. Monsignor Charles Pope is a pastor of a parish in Washington, D.C. And I thought he had a wonderful way of making the point that we priests must address the moral and social issues of concern to our Catholic faith. Here's how he put it. I thought this was pretty clever. He said, I don't favor the use of capital punishment. So they say, oh, he's a Democrat. I'm against abortion. So he's a Republican. I'm also against gay marriage. See, I told you he was a Republican. I think we should be more open to welcoming immigrants. Oops, he's a Democrat. And he says all the time, I'm just trying to be a faithful Catholic and a disciple of Jesus. My framework is not politics. It's the Catechism of the Catholic Church and Scripture. I love that. My framework is not politics. It's a Catechism of the Catholic Church and Scripture. And from that venue, from that point, clearly we have to address the moral issues of our day. So when we speak of separation of church and state in our country, we are not saying that religious bodies may not address areas of serious concern to the welfare of their parishioners and indeed of the whole nation. What we are saying is that no one religion can be the official religion of our nation. We understand that. Our faith, what's our faith tell us on these issues? Our faith tells us clearly that we must always oppose any intrinsically evil actions, actions that by their very nature are evil. We can never wink at those. We can never say those actions are okay. And it's true that not all moral issues are ethically equivalent. They're not all the same. They're not all equal. One issue that must always be opposed is the direct and intentional destruction of innocent human life. There's never a time where that's going to be okay. From the moment of conception until the moment of natural death. That's going to include abortion, euthanasia, embryonic stem cell research, and cloning. Those actions are always and only morally evil because they violate the sanctity and the dignity of a human life. There's never a time or a place or a country or a political stance that's going to make that okay. It's not only we, the Catholic voters, who must form our consciences properly. That's basically what I'm talking about here is proper formation of our conscience, using the teachings of our faith and God's law, but also our Catholic politicians are called to do that also. They're Catholics, so they're called to form their consciences properly as well. Unfortunately, we're living in a time, this is not new news to you, where that's simply not the case. We've heard for many, many years now from countless Catholic politicians, I am personally opposed to this or that or the other law, but I'm going to vote in favor of it. In addressing that approach, Pope Benedict XVI a few years ago pointed out that there is in our world today a climate of cultural relativism. Relativism is the heresy which says, well, there's different truths. You have a truth, and I have a truth. Your truth is different from my truth, but they're both true, even though they're directly opposite. So relativism can't allow for anything bigger than us. So the Ten Commandments are our marching orders. A relativist would say, well, no, that's true for you, but it's not true. No, we'd say the Ten Commandments are true for everybody. They're valid for every human being. Cultural relativism would not agree with that. So today, Cultural relativism, the Pope goes on, leads to claims of complete autonomy in moral choices. Well, you see how that follows, don't you? If it's all relative, I can choose whatever I want, right? There's no right or wrong. And so you think that, but I think this, and I'm going to choose this. So I'm autonomous in my moral choices, which of course is dead wrong. That's not the true state of the human being before God. And he says it leads to a capitulation to modern cultural trends. In other words, well, let's go with the flow. This is where the country's going right now. I'm in a minority. I think I'll go along with the majority. You can't do that if you have moral values, but if you are a relativist, you can easily do that. Just go with the flow. And he says, it does it as if any outlook on life were of equal value. Every outlook on life is not of equal value. If it's not in union with God, with the Scriptures, with our faith, it's not of equal value. He goes on to say that this moral relativism shows itself under the guise of tolerance today. Tolerance, as you know, is huge in our country. Just get along. Just go along to get along. But if that's a cover for moral relativism, then we can't. It's not right to tolerate what is sinful or evil. For instance, abortion. He said that permits self-proclaimed Catholic politicians, in other words, they proclaim to be Catholic, to confuse the faithful. And it's true. Many of our faithful have been confused by the positions of our Catholic politicians, by supporting laws that are diametrically opposed to the dignity of the person. A Catholic politician would support a law of abortion is supporting a law diametrically opposed to the dignity of that infant in the womb, and also to the common good, which are principles of Catholic moral teaching. The common good, the dignity of the person, our basic principle, the natural law, those are basic principles that don't just apply to Catholics, but apply to all human beings. Pope St. John Paul II put it this way. He said, there cannot be two parallel lives, a kind of a spiritual schizophrenia, a so-called spiritual life with its values and demands, and then a parallel secular life, almost like two railroad rails that are parallel but never meet. The Pope said, that can't be. Those two have to be joined. My spiritual life and my secular life have to be of a piece, of a whole. I have to be on Monday the person that I am on Sunday at Mass. So, what to do? First of all, pray for our politicians. I would say especially our Catholic politicians, that they would act according to the teachings of their Catholic faith. For instance, a Catholic politician could never vote in favor of abortion and be acting in union with their Catholic faith. Secondly, form your conscience carefully. Now's the time to do that. We have a wonderful insert in the bulletin today from the United States Catholic bishops, just a little two-pager on forming a conscience for a faithful citizenship. On the back page, there's a wonderful section called What Public Policies Should Concern Catholics the Most. This is a wonderful little conscience formation thing. Out in the narthex on a table there on the right is a great little guide from our Sunday Visitor. Just a very short pamphlet, a guide to Catholic voting. There's no names in here. It's not endorsing or opposing anyone. It's principles for forming our conscience. Very, very well done. Please take that as you leave as well today. So form your conscience, and then pray. Ask for God's guidance. Lord, I don't want this vote to be just me. I want you to be in that voting booth with me. And then finally vote. As one of the primary responsibilities of good citizenship, and one of the most important ways to bring our Catholic values to the important issues that our society faces today. Whether they know it or not, our society is hungry, in need of the wonderful Catholic values that we can bring to it. Let us be good citizens, articulate citizens, and vote those values in the weeks ahead.